Hi, it's me, Chio. Welcome. So, today we will be discussing how to stay positive as a writer. Okay, I know I look tired, and that's because I feel really tired. So, no makeup today. Let's just be grateful that I have a face, okay? Okay. So, focusing on the topic for today. As a writer, you can get down in the dumps and you feel like you're not progressing or doing what you're supposed to be doing, or you just maybe there's a reason, maybe there's no reason, and you might be looking for a word or two of encouragement, and that is what I want to offer you today. There are many words of encouragement out there on and how to's, what to do to make yourself feel better, and so on and so forth. And while they are beneficial, sometimes you just want to hear something that sounds real. And I decided that for this video, I'm going to be taking like my own moments that I felt down. Maybe if I can think of like specific moments to use as examples, I will do that. But I'll talk about like general moments because I've had those moments a lot. And I hope that's how I felt and how I got through those times will be encouraging to you and maybe help you. Now I know I don't look that cheerful in this video. I am happy. I'm just tired. I've had a long couple of days, weeks, I don't know, a long time of stress. So I'm just trying to get back into things. So as a writer, one of the things that has made me feel down is the almost unavoidable imposter syndrome. I've had this feeling for a while, and I don't know when it's worse. I think when you're publishing, it feels worse than when you're still learning to write, because it's no more I'm the person seeing my work, it's I'm going to be showing this work to other people. So it can get really difficult to navigate. I remember when I finished writing my book, I had the feeling a couple of times. It's not like it's a new thing that happens. When I was writing my book, when I was editing it, all that process, I had that feeling. Sometimes I'll feel like my work is so great, and other times I'll just be thinking like, was what I wrote good? Did I deserve to make this book? Is it original? Like, just so many things that made me feel like it wasn't mine or it wasn't good enough, or things like that. I remember this one particular time. It was after I published the book and it was already in print. I was getting close to the launch, and I had one of the worst dreams. The dream was very longer because you know how dreams can be. But like, I woke up in the middle of the night really panicky, because in my dream it was kind of like this thought and dream combined together, and I kept thinking about what I wrote. Like, did I actually write anything? Do I have a book? What is my story even about? I feel like none of these characters were in the book. Like, I feel like I wrote a bunch of words and none of them make any sense. And even if someone thinks they made sense, will someone be able to compare this book to someone else's book and say, oh, she just copied it, kind of thing? I started going through all the books I read, like, did I accidentally write someone else's story and think it was mine? And I was like, okay, calm down. It's your work. I had to like pick up my book again and flip through it to remember the story. Like, I knew the story, but to remind myself that I actually wrote a story, to remind myself that there was actually it wasn't like loosely connected plots or loosely connected words, that there's actually a process to it. So looking through my old notes, looking through the finished book, and yeah, reviews from people that had read the book helped. It encouraged me. It reminded me that I had actually done something. So imposter syndrome is very common. It's very common among writers because it's a creative process and it's something you're giving to somebody, something like you cherished, then you're giving to other people to look at and scrutinize, and all the negative thoughts that could surround the quality of that work come into your mind because you don't want to feel like this thing you created wasn't good or wasn't worth anything. So if you feel that way, don't beat yourself up for thinking that way, or don't think that it's true that the work isn't good or the work isn't yours. It's very common to just feel that way. Just look for something like something to bring you back. Just find something that you know will encourage you. It could be a family member, it could be friends, it could be looking through your work, it could be setting a reminder for yourself. Like you can even set a phone reminder or have like posters, sticky notes around you to remind you that you're doing the best you can at that moment. Things like that really help get you through those moments of feeling imposter syndrome. Another thing that has personally made me feel really down as a writer, also considering the kind of person I am besides being a writer, is when I fall sick. Falling sick is the worst thing for me. Anything that could just physically affect me is, I hate it so much because like it's almost unavoidable to fall sick. But someone like me, I work almost all the time. I hardly take breaks, which I should be doing more if I don't be falling sick. I know. But I like working and I like being active. So when I fall sick, I have time to not do anything and think. And that just stresses me out so much. And when I fall sick, since I always have work that I'm doing regarding my book, regarding my fashion line, regarding like different things, I'm always reminded that there's something I'm not doing at this moment and I want to push through it. Sometimes I do push through it, but it's not easy to push through sickness to get some work done, especially work when you have to be very mentally and physically active. So I'm always down when I'm sick because it's not like, oh, I feel sick, I hate being sick. Is, oh, I feel sick, now I'm not working kind of feeling. So falling sick is one of the things that makes me very sad as a writer and as a person who enjoys doing what she does. But when you fall sick, it's your body forcing you to rest. It could be other things that make you fall sick, but when your immune system is down, it's usually due to improper diet, lack of sleep, lack of rest, lack of exercise. So as much as you want to get your work out there and get things done quickly, you have to consider that your body and mind needs nourishment. So take that rest because your body is going to make you take it one way or the other. It's now up to you to choose. Are you going to choose when you take the rest, or is your body going to force you to take it when you don't want to take it? But you also have to accept that when you do fall sick, it's not the end of the world. It just means you've fallen sick and now you have to get better, and the work will be there when you get back. You can tell people even that you fell sick, and people are more understanding than you might think. So they will understand why you couldn't produce work when you probably told them you're going to produce it. So don't beat yourself up because you fell sick, because most of the time it's not your fault. And even when it's your fault in terms of you did not rest enough, it wasn't because you were trying to do something bad, it's because you are trying to produce these things for people. So don't feel bad about falling sick and the situation around falling sick. Then another thing that gets me is stress. And stress is a kind of general thing because it's like a feeling behind things like imposter syndrome, falling sick, etc. So many things. But like the word stress itself, as it is for me, it's like when things aren't going as they're supposed to go, when things get overwhelming, And it's like really hard to battle with feeling stressed because what you're basically doing is stressing about being stressed, so you're more stressed. So when you're working hard, when you have a goal, it's quite common, it's normal to get stressed. If you didn't have any ambition, any goals, any thing that you wanted to do, then you wouldn't be stressed about anything because you don't care, and that means you're basically not really living. So getting stressed is not, the fact that you're able to get stressed is not a bad thing, but you should watch it because getting stressed can lead to a lot of other problems health wise. So don't let things stress you easily. And when you do get stressed, don't feel like you have no right to feel this way because of whatever situation. To someone else it can be small, but it doesn't mean that if it's big to you it's wrong. If something as little as a late delivery of your work happens, some people are like, oh, it just happens, just you can do it later. But to someone like me, it's like if I don't get this thing done at the time I said it was supposed to be done, then I would feel stressed and I will probably have a breakdown until I figure out a way to solve that problem. So sometimes I get it in my head that when I'm feeling stressed, and people are saying, why are you feeling stressed? Don't worry, it's part of life, it's a lesson. And I'm like, but I feel this way now, so am I not allowed to feel this way? It can be very stressful. Other people don't. It can be stressful when other people don't see that this thing is a big deal to you and you're struggling. So sometimes it's like you have no one to lean on. But yeah, you can't get stressed. Just accept it. Know what stresses you out. Figure out how to avoid those things, and those things you can't control, just remind yourself that you can't control them. And instead of only focusing on the stress of it, spend more time thinking of how to overcome those solutions. Like just give yourself like an out, what I call it, an out, yeah, something like a signal. When you're feeling stressed, how long are you allowed to be stressed for? 5 minutes, a full day, forever? Just give yourself like, okay, I'm entitled to feel this way about this thing at this point, but it should not go beyond this because I need to get back to work, or because I need to rest, or because I need to listen to what someone else is saying instead of thinking about just how I feel about it. So I think that covers how I feel about getting stressed and how it makes me upset when I'm trying to get my work done. Then something else I discovered quite recently, I mean, publishing hurdles, I always knew that publishing was not a breeze, but handling my physical book, oh my gosh, the publishing hurdles are something else altogether. And sometimes like problems you never see coming, things that should not be a problem because you just think people that are working with you know how to handle these situations. So publishing hurdles are like one of the biggest stresses a writer can face, because that's when like that is the final line to prove that you've done this work. You finish writing it, that's what's in your control, and now you're publishing it. And whether you're self-publishing or traditionally publishing, part of it is still out of your hands, from who is helping you market it to who is selling it for you to who is buying it. So many external factors affect publishing. And finding out all the mistakes, I'll just say this, be careful when you're publishing. Like, write a list of every possible scenario that can go wrong, from wrong barcodes to wrong ISBN to not the proper paper type, or misinformation, delay in time, printing errors, delay in printing, the machines breaking down, internet problems. I'm stressing myself thinking about all the things that can go wrong, but it is good to know them before you publish. because you really don't want to be dealing with it, especially as a self-publishing author, when you are trying to get your book out there, because you're more worried about how people receive your book, that you don't want to be thinking about all these challenges that should not be challenges but somehow are common challenges. The publisher you can use, whether online or physical or something, they will have their rules that you miss, or they'll have things they change, or they'll have mistakes they make that they don't fix on time, or they don't tell you about it until the last minute, or you find out through a reader that left a bad review because of a mistake they made. Things like that are publishing hurdles that make me really upset, really really upset. So through my experience, I just listed some things that can happen if you're going to be working. Let me see if I can think of a few more. mm, like if you're going to be working with reviewers doing that, make sure you let them know beforehand what kind of content you're comfortable talking about in respect to your book, in terms of where you're comfortable doing interviews, subject matters you're comfortable talking about. If you're fine with them getting personal, book spoilers. Yes, book spoilers. I know that one very well. So just whatever thing, even though you think it's like dumb that people can know it, it's not that you're being rude thinking they can't, that they don't know it. It's you trying to cover all your bases. So cover all your bases and don't assume the best, because you'll be the person to pay for it, kind of, at the end of the day, if things don't work out well, because it's your book. So publishing hurdles, when they become hurdles, will really upset any writer. So just be aware of the situation beforehand, because there's no word of comfort besides it's a learning process. And as much as we learn through things, you don't want to be learning through everything. I know you really don't want everything to be a learning process. You just want some things to be successes so that you can move on smoothly. And I don't know if there's any word of comfort in that, but I hope like my advice on things you should watch out for in terms of publishing hurdles will prevent you from being in the position to be upset by those hurdles. And as a writer, as a creative, one of the biggest, I keep saying biggest, well, because everything is kind of a big deal, because they kind of connect in their ways. But another common problem or upsetting thing is creative block. And creative block can be for your book and for the promotion process. You don't know how to get to people, you don't know what people like to see to know about your book, you don't know how to describe your book to people. Oh my gosh, that's one of the biggest ones for me. I find it difficult to describe my book, even though I wrote the book. It's really hard. But creative block is almost unavoidable, because even if you're creative, there are points where you don't remember what you wanted to do, or you're too stressed to think or sick or something. Just something is distracting you from focusing on your creativity. And sometimes you don't even know what that thing is. And that not knowing can even be worse, because if you don't know the problem, you don't know how to solve it. So what I like to do is kind of write lists. Yeah, just a way to remind myself of what challenges I'm going through. Why am I feeling off? Yeah, I always like, that's why I say like, I want to do this but I feel off, and I'm not able to do it because I feel off. Why am I feeling off? Have I eaten today? Have I rested? When was the last time I went for a walk? Maybe I need to have a conversation with someone to make me feel like I'm doing something outside what I always do. Just something to relieve stresses in some places, to free up my mind so I can focus creatively. When you have creative block, no matter how long the creative block is, don't ever think it's because you've lost your skill or because you're not good enough. There is always something that causes those creative blocks. And not all writers are meant to be writing 5 books a year. I don't know how people do that. People write so many books in such short time. Not all writers are meant to do that. Some writers take like decade gaps between books. So if you find out that it's not any stress but just how you're built, that you're not able to produce work that often, then don't feel like it's a bad thing. It might just be that you're producing even better quality work. So creative block is, yeah, as I said, it's a big deal, it's a big problem writers go through. It's a big problem I go through. Some, like, I know before I wrote my book Memory of Stone, I had the longest creative block, and I just chalked it up to I'm not going to write until I'm older, so it doesn't even matter because I can't think of anything. Luckily, I was able to find inspiration and finally had my fever dream of Memory of Stone and write it. So, like, try not to overthink it when you have creative block. Yes, there's discipline to make your work better, to actually put out content, especially if you're working with a contract with someone. But when you're not being creative per se, don't beat yourself up about it. It happens. Then the last thing I want to talk about is isolation, the feeling of isolation. And I want to end with this one because it's kind of applies to me as both it applies to me on so many levels, as a reader, as a reader of fantasy, as a writer, as a fantasy writer, as a Nigerian writer, as a female writer, as just so many aspects that lead me to the feeling of isolation. And it's funny because, like, I love being by myself a lot. I don't necessarily like, even making this video, it's kind of, I'm not going into details of things that happen that I've gone through exactly, because I'm not the kind of person that likes sharing that much information with people. I love processing things by myself, with myself, and getting through it that way. I don't like socializing, I don't like doing all that, so I'm fine. But there are some times where you want to share things with people with common interests, just to feel like you can socialize, or that what you care about is cared about by other people. Those different things can make you want to socialize even when you're introverted. But I've experienced the isolating atmosphere that is the world of writing and reading. The first time I clearly remember is when I started reading fantasy a lot. I found that I really liked fantasy. And there weren't book clubs around me that read fantasy. They were mostly focused on political or self-help kind of books. And as even if it's good for those people, doesn't mean it's good for me. And I couldn't get them to read what I wanted, so it kind of left me feeling like an outcast in those circles. And even online, it was hard to, because I was a very big Goodreads. I find most of my books through Goodreads because it's kind of easy for me to just see reviews and recommendations there. But, like, I have conversations with people that can get these books easily, and I can't get these books easily, so I can't keep up with those online book clubs, because you're in America or you're in the UK and you have access to these books, and over here in Nigeria, where the bookshops don't have these particular fantasy books, so I can have this discussion with you. I can say, oh my gosh, I really like this, but then you ask me if I've read this, and I won't be able to say yes because I don't have access to it. So I wanted to find Nigerians who are the same, but all the community conversations on Goodreads, there were none that were active. There were no Nigerian ones that were active. So things like that made me isolated as a reader. Then breaking into writing, I found the same thing. Not many Nigerian fantasy writers. You can't easily find hashtags that point you to a Nigerian writer. You can't have that conversation with us about the struggles. So just so many things make made me isolated from others in my writing and reading journey, especially fantasy. And people don't really get it. People don't really see it because in their own things they're not feeling isolated the same way. But instead of focusing on that, like, yes, it upset me because I wanted to talk to people about it. I could count the number of people in my whole life that I found that before, like recently, that enjoy fantasy. So I saw that. So I saw that if I wanted to make this thing I cared about important, then I had to make it myself. So I started being more vocal in some book clubs I've joined, talking about fantasy. And it's not always met with listening ears, but the more I push it, the more people want to know why I push it. And when they pick up a fantasy book or they pick up my book, then they like it and like, oh my gosh, I never knew I could like fantasy, and it makes me happy. And also I started meeting, the more I wrote and spoke on fantasy writing, especially as a Nigerian, the more readers and writers like I started meeting are like, oh my gosh, there's somebody else out there like me. And it's just the whole, if you want something done, you have to do it yourself. So there are many of us out there, and there's been this kind of limiting our voices because of people that we talk to don't care or want to listen. So we don't know each other is out there, but like if you on your own keep talking about it, the person who wants to hear it will eventually hear it. And that's the thing about being isolated as a fantasy writer. So whatever it is you're feeling isolated about, whatever topic matter you find interesting, or whatever lifestyle, whatever that you feel like you can't share with people because people around you don't care about it or they even hate it, instead of thinking about those around you, think about other people who are feeling the same way as you're feeling, and just do whatever you can to get yourself heard. Just keep spreading the word, whether through promotion or talking to as many people as possible as you can. Eventually someone who cares about what you care about will find you, and they will be happy they did. Trust me, it's a great feeling when people are able to, when you're able to reach out to people and they are happy that you talked about these things they cared about. They feel very thankful, and it's, in my experience, it made me really happy hearing people say things like that to me, thanking me for talking about these things they care about but weren't able to talk about to anybody before. So those are the things, those are the issues that have made me feel upset or down as a writer, and those are little ways which I was able to endure or overcome them. And I hope that in your own experiences, in your own problems, if you have these similar problems with me, that you're able to overcome them too, and that the things I've said in this video would encourage you to keep trying and keep pushing and just keep being okay with yourself, because everybody goes through problems and you're entitled to feel the way you feel and learn from it and grow from it. And that is all I have to say today. I hope that my video has been entertaining or helpful to you anyways. And if you have liked this video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.